You spent 45 minutes solving a LeetCode problem. You click run and all the test cases pass. The logic is flawless. So you click submit and boom, the entire screen turns red. Time limit exceeded. Hello everybody, welcome back to Tech with Nanath, and today we will be talking about time and space complexities, the big O notation, and why your code runs into errors and how to solve it. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the video. So before hopping into the big O and LeetCode, let us first understand what are time and space complexities. Before going to time limit exceeded and memory limit exceeded, let us first understand the root causes of those errors. Time complexity and space complexity are two concepts which you need to understand not just for LeetCode but also while developing a project in the production life cycle of a software. So time complexity is the amount of time an algorithm requires to execute on a machine or on a server. Now the amount of time is not in terms of seconds, I mean it is in terms of seconds, but rather it is computed on the basis of the number of operations performed in that algorithm. I know I've mentioned a lot of technical jargons, so let us talk in some layman terms. Example, you and your friend want to go out to eat at a restaurant or let's say a small street food stall. Okay, by 7 you have to leave and by 8 you have to return because at 8 you have a meeting. Now at 7 you WhatsApp message your friend that hey bro, listen, let's go out to eat at the so and so stall. So you both leave. By 5 minutes you reach at the stall and at 7:05 it take you almost 20-30 minutes to talk, eat, chat and everything. At 7:35 you leave, 7:40 you come back and you freshen up by 7:50, and by 8 you are ready and get set go on that meeting. But what if the WhatsApp message that you sent, go back to the first square, the WhatsApp message that you sent to your friend like hey bro, let's meet in 5 minutes, that message itself took 15 minutes to deliver. That will hamper your schedule by 15 minutes and you'll be sitting in a meeting at 8:05 p.m. You're late. So that is what time complexity means. Your message should be delivered in the least time possible. It should not take more time. Now comes space complexity. Imagine you're sending 5 resumes to Ninath. Now you're sending them over WhatsApp. So how will the message be sent? Will you create a SQL table for it? Like for every message you will have empty fields where you insert a document, each allocated 1 MB. Now if somebody is sending me 5 resumes, sending Ninath 5 resumes, they will send hello Ninath, please find the resumes attached, and all those 5 will be filled. I'll check them out. But what if tomorrow somebody texts me and says hi Ninath, how are you? No resumes attached. If you have pre-allocated that space, it will be wasted. That is the space complexity. It is the amount of space that is being used, the amount of memory that is being used by your algorithm. Now in production grade environments we use NoSQL databases to store unstructured data, but that's not the topic we're talking about today. In LeetCode and your certain coding based algorithms, time and space complexity mean the least amount of operations that you perform and at the same time least amount of space that you consume. Time and space complexity are the metrics used to track the amount of time and space required by your algorithm, and your only objective while writing code is to minimize time and space complexity as much as possible. Now as we have talked about time and space complexities, let's also focus on how to measure them. So there are certain units to measure them. Just like you measure sugar in kilograms, you measure milk in liters, water in liters. Similarly, to measure code and how efficient it is, we use something called as asymptotic notations. So now there are 3 types of asymptotic notations: the omega, the theta, and the big O. As for the video, we are concerned about the big O, but I'll explain you all 3 in a quick snapshot. And to explain them, I will give you a situation. So for example, you are at your home and you're about to leave for your office at 8 a.m. You have to reach your office by 10 a.m. The first asymptotic notation, which is omega, represents the best case. The second, which is theta, represents the average case. And the big O, which is the topic of today, represents the worst case. So now when you're leaving for your office at 8 a.m., the best case would be that you get your bus on time, which is at 8:05 a.m. You reach the station by 8:25 a.m. You board the train, which reaches your office location at 8:45 a.m. office city or whatever, and then you walk to your office very comfortably. You reach by 9, you set everything up. By 9:05 you're in the office canteen. By 9:20 you are ready and you're chatting with your friends, waiting for the work hours to start so you can start programming or coding or doing whatever you want. That is the best case scenario which could be measured by the omega. But listen, what if? What if your train instantly halts somewhere for signal? So that 20-minute ride becomes 35 minutes. So now you're reaching office 15 minutes late, which means you will be, let's say, settling around 8:30 or 8:35. Now, that is the average case. Like, okay, it will work. It will work. There's no problem. But still, you were late for a while. But let's say the worst case. Now, what is the worst case here? You don't catch the bus on time. So you have to take the 8:15 bus. You don't get the train on time, so you have to take the 8:40 train. The train reaches late, so you reach at 9:15. And while setting up everything at your office, it takes you 9:45. So you don't have time to chit chat, you don't have time to settle down. You may even hurriedly do your breakfast and get back to your desk so you can start working because you are almost late. Now the entire story is complete. But let me ask you one thing. Why did you leave at 8? You knew the best case was you will just reach in 1 hour. So why not just leave at 8:45? You reach at 9:45, you start working by 10. Or maybe leave at 8:30 and reach by 9:30. That also could have worked. Why did you leave at exactly 8? Because you calculated the worst case possible. When you leave for any entrance exam, let's say CET or JEE, you always reach 1 to 2 hours prior because that is the worst case possible. You might be held up in traffic, you might be held up in, let's say, maybe you not get an auto rickshaw or something like that. So that is the worst case that you measure just so that you can make your things work. And by things, I mean the algorithm. That is exactly the job of the big O notation. Now, what are these three cases, these three notations? The omega is used to track the best case scenario. So if you are catching everything in the best case, you will use the omega to denote that. If you're catching everything in average, you use theta to denote that. And if you're calculating everything in worst, you use big O to denote that. Now, omega and theta are not at all used when you talk about time and space complexities. We always consider the worst case because that is the exact reason that I gave the example to you. We use big O so that we calculate the worst case for any algorithm that we define. So now that we understand that, why are we measuring the worst case? So that our algorithm works, meaning I reach my office in time even if the worst things happen on the way. Let us convert that into code. Example, on the screen you can see there is an array which is 1 2 3 4 5, and we have to perform a linear search on that array. Now a linear search is basically going through every element and searching the array. So consider my element is 1 that I have to search. You can see that it is already at the first position. So as soon as I begin the loop, it ends. I will loop for I is equal to 0, I less than, and I plus plus. Here my best case is 1. So I get my result in the best case at the first index. That means I only perform one operation. Remember, from time and space complexities, I told you that the time complexity is the amount of operations that you require to complete your algorithm. Here you perform only one operation, which is only traverse at 1. Now what is the operation? I plus plus. In the loop you can see we have said I plus plus. That is the operation that you perform every iteration. So that is one operation that you perform. I'm like, okay, that's the best case. Fine then. It's good. Now let me change the game. What if the element to search is 3? Now I have to perform 3 operations to reach 3, which is I plus plus, I plus plus. And when I stand at 3, I will first check it and then I'll return the index directly, whichever I find 3 at. That is the average case. I'm like, okay, fine, you know what, even if that's the case, the algorithm works. I mean, I'm traveling n by 2 indices, so I'm okay with it. I'm doing n by 2 operations, I'm okay with it. Now consider I am given, let's say, the search element 5. The game has completely changed. Something that was at the first index now goes to the last index, meaning that I have to travel the entire array to search for my element. And that is the worst case of your algorithm. We are using the big O to track the worst case, is what I've told you. So the time complexity of the algorithm becomes, just because we will always be measuring the worst case, therefore the time complexity of my algorithm becomes, you write a big O which stands for the worst case, you open those brackets, and inside it you write the maximum number of operations that your algorithm will take. In our case there are n elements, which means I will be incrementing I n times. That means my number of operations are n. 2D arrays or 2D matrices, the O of n turns into O of n square or O of m into n. How? So just like we had O of n traversals in a linear space, for 2D matrix, you have to travel horizontally and vertically. Now, if the array is 4 by 4, it means it has 16 cells, which means the n is 4 for a horizontal level, the n is 4 for the vertical level. In my worst case, the element that I have to search will be at the rightmost corner of the array or the 2D matrix, which means I'll have to perform n into n operations, and that is n square operations. So that jargon that people used to throw at you, O of n square, O of log n, I hope it's much simpler now. That is how you calculate the big O notation. That is how it works for O of n square, O of log n, and there are multiple other big O notations. Let us jump to the next and the final chapter, which is why do you get time limit exceeded and how to fix the code. So welcome to the chapter of conquering time limit exceeded and potentially even memory limit exceeded. So while starting the chapter, I'll firstly tell you how does a LeetCode problem actually work, So you are given a description, an example which has input, output, and explanation. And one thing which most people ignore in any lead code problem is if you scroll down, you can see there is something called as constraints. Constraints are the ones that define the time and space complexity of your problem. If you see for problems like backtracking or heavy recursion problems, the constraints are very low. These constraints are just maybe 13, 8, 10, 12. So that's the maximum size an array can take. And for problems which require a very advanced approach like the prefix sums or anything that is related to O of n log n, you can see the operations or the number of n that is required, which is the n size of the array is 10 raised to 5, meaning 1 lakh. So primarily LeetCode allows you to do 10 raised to 8 to 10 raised to 9 upper bound operations. So if you have something like 10 raised to 5, which is 1 lakh, you can never perform an n square, because if you square 1 lakh, it goes to 10 raised to 10, which is not under LeetCode limits. As for space complexity, the LeetCode offers you around maybe 1 to 300 megabytes of memory, and if you exceed that megabytes, then you will definitely get an MLE. Here is an example problem that I recently solved. So this was from a bi-weekly contest. You see it on the screen. This problem is a graph-based backtracking problem. When I began this problem, the first thing I noticed is it required 3 different concepts. So I scrolled directly down to the constraints and I saw something which was the constraints were very low, meaning that a brute force solution could work. That is how I devised my approach, and I used backtracking and graph BFS DFS, and I solved the problem in under 32 minutes. So now comes the question, how do you optimize your code? The steps are very simple. Number one, before even starting the problem, look at the constraints. If the constraints are around 10 raised to 5 or anything above that, there is no O of n square approach that will work, meaning you have to optimally find out the O of n or O of n log n approach. Drop that code base right there, right now. Do not try to write a brute force approach, because you will not learn anything from it and your brain will start overfitting. Overfitting is a concept of machine learning towards brute force approaches. You will, the first thing you see a problem, you'll always think of the brute force rather than trying to think about it in an O of n or O of n log n fashion. Primary O of n approaches include prefix sums, sliding windows. Log n includes binary search if the array is sorted. You cannot even think of the two loops. The answer is either in dynamic programming or prefix sums or sliding window. If the array is sorted, jump to binary search directly. After identifying the algorithm, map out the pseudocode for the problem. Do not jump into writing the code directly. Most beginners, when you're coding brute force solutions, directly jump to coding solutions because there is no need to write a brute force pseudocode down. But when you're talking about an optimal approach, there are certain steps of the algorithm that you need to write down. And that is where exactly every beginner makes a mistake. Grab a pen and paper whenever you're solving a LeetCode problem. And then when you're devising that optimal approach, write it down step by step, one by one. That is not a brute force solution. A brute force can be coded easily without even thinking twice. But when you're looking at the constraints and you're getting the idea that you might be getting a TLE for a brute force or a non-beta approach, it's better to take pen and paper, calculate the complexity using the big O notation, and then you figure out what approach you have to apply to it, and then write the pseudocode one by one. If you have to calculate the suffix, if you have to calculate the prefix at index I, what is the left max, right max, any algorithm that you can work with. Finally, at point number 4, open your compiler, look at your pseudocode that you have written, and start writing the program. Now, when you're solving these type of problems, there's usually an occurrence where you don't know the trick to the problem. When most of the times what happens is that you don't even know the approach or the way to code the solution and you cannot code it. In those times, I would advise you, if you don't know the pattern already, you can maybe solve a few similar, easier questions on that pattern. If you're not able to devise the approach at all, I would advise you to solve a lot more similar patterns which are of lower difficulty on the problem. But if you have a hunch that you can code the solution yourself, whatever timer you have set for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, forget that timer. Set for 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever you want. Okay, don't sit for longer than 3 hours. That's waste of time. But if you feel like you have a hunch of solving the problem, then sit through the problem, because that is where your brain actually grows when you solve these problems. That is when your brain understands to traverse these trenches of problem solving and understanding optimal approaches. If you give up after 30 minutes and you just go to the AI or the YouTube, you're never going to build intuition, because your brain is never used to that sort of pain of calculating that approach. So when you actually calculate the time complexity that is required and you use these approaches, whichever you map out, and you finally get a working code, your brain will start targeting optimal solutions first rather than brute force solutions. And the moment you start checking the constraints even before reading the problem or after reading the problem without checking the example, you know you're growing in LeetCode. Because when you're checking the constraints, you are thinking not as a problem solver, not as a coder, but as a software engineer. You're trying to calculate the worst case possible so your solution works in every single algorithm, in every single scenario. And that is exactly how you calculate TLE, avoid TLE and MLE, and code a perfect solution using whatever approaches or the steps that I've told you. So yeah, that was all about time and space complexity and how to calculate it. Thank you so much everybody for watching the video. I know I have kept it a bit short because the big O notation itself is a very huge topic and it is more of a very technical topic. Calculation of the big O on paper, of a problems on paper, you can find out multiple videos on that on YouTube directly, and after that you can watch this video and you'll get a clear idea of how to calculate the approach that you need, because the constraints are the biggest hint. Instead, forget all the hint boxes that are given below the problem. The constraints are the biggest hint to solving the problem. I hope you really loved the video and you learned something new from it. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and that's all from my side. Thank you everybody. Ninad out.